Right now we're going to welcome in, as we do generally around this time every week. It varies from week to week on the actual minute. But Kevin Minnick from NJ Advanced Media. Check out all his stuff, NJ.com. Good morning, Kev.
Hey, good morning, Sully.
We're a little behind schedule, but we had a great interview in the first hour. Wanted to get as much as we could out of that, so you don't mind us pushing you and Mike McGarry back a little bit, do you?
No, that's okay.
All right.
You know, I'm a team player, so that's fine with me.
Good stuff. Nick over here is a little bit chafed. We got to get into this for just a minute or two about the Adam Talaferro going to a 7-on-7. He's shaking his head as we speak.
Yeah, you know, that kind of, when that release came out, I looked at it and I kind of shook my head. And you know, I'm not a I don't know. I'm not a big. I know 7-on-7 is kind of becoming more of the popular thing and becoming more of the national thing. But I think that you know, there's probably a little bit more to this than meets the eye. You know, this football game has been going on for nearly 30 years now at over at Rowan University, and kind of something that you know, really wraps up the high school football career for a lot of these seniors that had an opportunity to play in this game, and you know, before going off to college or you know, whatever their plans were. And it kind of caught me out of the blue, and you know, I think there's a lot of people that are not happy about it. Like I said, I don't know the ins and outs as to why exactly the game and the format of that particular, you know, couple of days has changed. I know it takes a lot to put that game together and to house the kids at Rowan and feed them and go about what, you know, that 3-day process. But, you know, I think a lot of coaches were caught off hand because I don't think they knew that this was coming. So, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, times change, and you have to be willing to change with the times, and you know, be open to different things. But I think for a lot of people, it was kind of disappointing.
So they're going to that format this year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the football game usually was somewhere around towards the end of June, basically after everyone had, you know, graduation ceremonies were all done, and you know, in South Jersey, and it was like a 3-day deal where, you know, they would come in on a Sunday, and I believe the game was on a Wednesday. So yeah, it's supposed to change now to a 7-on-7 tournament, and you know, from just reading what the press release had come and said, that you know, this is going to be open to a lot of different teams, and I don't think it's necessarily going to be 7-on-7 teams from respective high schools. I think you're going to have programs that are, you know, compete at the 7-on-7 tournaments entering into this, and it's going to be youth leagues. It's going to be teams from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. So it's going to have a major change to it. I think, you know, I think that whole South Jersey vibe to this may very well be gone. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know, you know, how much interest it's going to generate, but you know, like I said, you know, times change, and obviously there were some reasons why, you know, the foundation and the organizers felt it was necessary to make the change. But like I said before, I think a lot of disappointed kids and a lot of disappointed people out there.
I mean, Kevin, shouldn't we just call this what it is? It seems like it's going to be a high school / college showcase, because really what I've seen this game do the past couple of years, and even back when I was in high school, you know, it gives, especially for the seniors, it gives them one last chance to compete one more time on a football field, full contact, full game, full pads, and they're out there. You know, most of them already have made their college choices, but some guys have used it in a sense to say, you know, give themselves one last look from these college coaches. Maybe they get an opportunity at a D3 or D2 school. I mean, to me, now you're making it a total. It's almost like a skills competition. And I was talking to Sully about this during one of the breaks. It's now kind of one of those things you see out in the summer where these high school teams will go to these 7-on-7 quote unquote tournaments at, you know, Rutgers or some of the other colleges in the local area, and they'll play 7-on-7 tournaments where you're eliminating part of the team where now these offensive linemen, defensive linemen, they're not really getting these looks or even opportunities for these all-star games, because now you've turned into a quarterback receiver and running back type of showcase where now you mentioned youth programs too. It seems like now the high schools can use it as a recruiting tool, and then colleges can use it as, okay, these aren't all seniors. Let's look at the juniors in this all-star game. That guy's pretty freakishly athletic. Let's keep our eye on him. So maybe it opens doors that way. But to me, you might as well just call it what it is. I mean, this is no longer an all-star game. It's a showcase.
You're right, and that's exactly what it is. And I don't know of a lot of kids that have used it as a springboard towards a late college decision. I know that it has happened in the past, and you are right. It is one last time to play on in South Jersey a full game, and in most years the games have been pretty good. And you get out there and you mix up the talent and you see get an opportunity to see how these kids play together. And what you're absolutely right with the 7-on-7 is that it takes the lineman out of the game. So it takes a potential kid who may be a chance to kick one more time or punt, or all along those lines. It takes I don't know enough, to be quite honest, about the 7-on-7 game. I know that it has its fans. I know it has its detractors. So it's going to be different. When it comes out and we find that it's not just seniors and that it's everybody. It's just it is going to be just a completely different deal. And people are going to be very blunt about it, just going to have to accept it, that the game is now gone. And, it does. It takes away a lot. And I think there's enough 7-on-7 things out there that, we didn't need another one to replace something that had been very successful. But, like I had said also, we don't know, publicly a lot of the reasons why this game has now been shut down. So, I've heard things about the cost involved and the time and all, but, I think if people wanted the game around, I think there's probably ways to maneuver things and find ways to maybe generate some money, maybe pick up a couple sponsors here or there to help keep it going. But, they've decided to go in this 7-on-7 direction.
Kevin, I think what they're ultimately going for is kind of a football festival feel, like a 3-day festival type of thing where you have a lot of different events going on, and like you said, the skills competitions more of like I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I could compare it to, but it seems like they're just going for that.
Sounds like the NFL Combine almost.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly will happen aside from the games, the 7-on-7 matchups itself, but they have said it's going to be a 3-day festival. So they'll, it all depends on what the term festival means to the foundation now. But it's going to be different, and I know that in the past there's most of the media outlets had covered the game and had wrote about different things about the game. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know right now that 7-on-7 means that much to those in the media, in the journalism business right now. And so that, from that perspective, that game may not get a whole lot of attention. We'll find out, what happens. But the game itself was an opportunity to highlight some kids, maybe, focus a story on a kid who's maybe returned from an injury to get to play one last time, or someone who's, a standout kid getting ready to go on to college. But now I think you can kind of kiss that goodbye.
We're talking with Kevin Minnick of NJ Advanced Media. Check out all his stuff on NJ.com. And, Kevin, let's turn our attention to high school baseball. Mike McGarry filled us in a lot on the Cape Atlantic League teams, so let's spread it out a little bit more into South Jersey. Tell us about some of the teams you got your eye on in places like Gloucester County, Camden County. I mean, I know there's always some good teams up in the Cherry Hill area when you're talking about Cherokee, Seneca, all those kind of schools. Williamstown has some good players back. So there's going to be a lot of great baseball. We talked about just in the Cape Atlantic League in the opening week, there's like 4 marquee matchups.
Yeah, I think you're going to find that there's going to be some very good games, some very good matchups throughout the season. And I believe, as Mike had mentioned, he had mentioned, I believe, about the fact that there's a lot of kids in the Cal. You look at rosters, with kids going on to play in college. This is statewide. This has become the new norm. Where you look at a baseball team, and most teams are going to have one or two kids going on to the next level, and a lot of these teams have multiple kids. I'm talking 4 and 5 and 6 kids, and that doesn't even and that doesn't even include the underclassmen who have already decided where they want to go to school. So I think high school baseball in South Jersey, and the state as well, is extremely good. And there's going to be some very, very good teams out there. There's going to be some national caliber teams. In Del Barton up in the north is going to play in a national tournament to start the season down in North Carolina. Closer to home here in South Jersey, St. Augustine is probably right now the number one team in South Jersey until proven otherwise. But let me tell you, Bishop Eustace has been absolutely on fire in their scrimmages, and I know scrimmages is a whole different ball game than when you come to to regular season games, and it all comes down to who's going to be on the mound on any particular day. But Bishop Eustace is absolutely rock solid, top to bottom in their batting order. They've got depth on the pitch, on the mound. You got teams like Gloucester Catholic, the kind of the usual suspects that seem to reload every year. And then you got these other teams, these public school teams are going to be very good. Mike mentioned Vineland. I think Vineland's going to be a team that people are going to kind of maybe be surprised with, maybe mid-season to where they're at. You look in Group 4, a team like Clearview with 3 or 4 Division I talented kids, an Eastern team in the same boat. Teams like coming out of the Olympic American. Your Lenape, your Shawnee, your Cherokee, Washington Township. These are all, there's very, very good baseball that's going to be played throughout South Jersey. And, you're not going to see an undefeated team, I don't think. I think you're going to see, the best team in South Jersey could end the season with 4 or 5 losses because the quality of competition is that good. The teams are going to beat up on each other pretty much every single day. So, there's always going to be those surprise teams that kind of work their way up, and those teams that are the usual suspects that produce high caliber teams year in and year out. But it's going to be an interesting season. Like Mike said, it's the quickest season. It's going to be cold it's going to be cold. There's going to be rainouts. So once we get through April and we get into May is really when it's going to heat up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's out there.
Yeah, Kevin, you mentioned a team that I'm really interested in seeing how their season plays out is Washington Township. I mean, they have some really good talent, a lot of guys back. So they had some younger talent last year, and man, I love that shortstop. He's a heck of a player. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but what a smooth player. Yeah,
that's Rossi. And
Rossi, yeah.
Rossi, I believe he's a junior this year, and the thing with Washington Township is they finished 13-13 last year. I think I think expectations were a little bit higher for them to do a little bit better than that. But they lost their coach. Bill Alvaro had stepped down. I believe it was 2 days before the season opener. So there was a very, very quick period of adjustment right there. Not that they didn't know Bob Kelly, who now is back for his second full season. They didn't know him. He had been around for a while as an assistant. But when your coach that's been around for a while is gone 2 days before the season starts, that's kind of like a bomb hitting. So there was a little bit of an adjustment period. But I think they got a lot of kids back. They got a very talented pitcher in junior Nick Hammer, who was dynamite as a freshman. Took a little bit of a step back, I think, last year, but should be, ready to kind of maybe, take on a little bit more responsibility this year. And they're going to hit the ball. So, they are unlike a lot of other teams. They got a little bit of pitching depth. They've got some kids, 4 or 5 kids, in the lineup that, can hit the ball pretty well. Some bashers. They're going to, I think 13-13 is something that's going to be in the past for them. I think they're much better. They'll be much better than that. And, there's some other teams too, that'll be in the same boat.
Kev, real quick before we let you go, it's a whole new era at Delran. Their coach, who was there for, 40-some years or something, stepped down. So what are the Bears looking at this year?
I think Delran is going to be in fine shape. Jim Goodwin takes over for Rich Bender. Rich had been the only coach in school history for 43 years. Started the program, and it has now some health issues, and really just determined that he just couldn't do what needed to be done on a daily basis anymore. So they go with one of their own. I think they're going to be in fine shape, and they have one of the most talented juniors in the state. He may be the best junior baseball player in the state in R.J. Moten, outfielder, and he does a little bit of pitching too. So I think Delran won't skip a beat. I think those kids, they know Jim Goodwin. They'll be fine in that way. And I think is Delran a state tournament, a state championship type team? I don't know right now. I don't know about their depth, but I know they have R.J. Moten. And if you're a high school baseball fan and you want to see who's going to, I think, is going to be drafted next year, and will have to make his decision whether he wants to play baseball or football in college, if that's the route he takes, he's the kid to go see. So Delran, I think, will be in fine shape.
Kevin, let's hope no rain tomorrow so we can start getting after it on Monday, man. It's going to be a great baseball season.
Yeah, I think we're good for opening day. It's going to be in the low 50s probably, so you'll have to have your coat. Maybe you might even want to put on a pair of gloves. But it'll be opening day is always an exciting day, always a day that everyone looks forward to every year.
Great stuff, Kev. We'll catch up with you next week and see how the first week plays out.
All right, Sully. Thanks very much for your time.